Section 6.7 example 3 says what are the graphs of y equals x squared minus 1 and its inverse y equals plus or minus the square root of x plus 1. I just put some reminders up here from when we learned about graphing quadratics, since we do have a quadratic here. We usually looked at y equals a times x minus h squared plus k, where h and k were our vertex, and a told us whether we were going to open upwards with a positive a or downwards with a negative a, as well as whether or not we had a stretch. First, we'll start by graphing y equals x squared minus 1. We know that because there is a 1 in front of the x squared, our a is 1, so we will have an upward opening parabola. We also have x minus 0, which is why it's just x squared. So our h is 0, and then we have minus 1 for our k. So our vertex is 0, negative 1, so we know we're going to start down at 0, negative 1. If you remember what a parabola looks like other than that, you can just shift it downwards 1, because that's really all we did. We took the parent function x squared, shifted it down 1. If you don't remember that, totally fine. This isn't a super complicated equation, so you could always plug in a few values. We know that our vertex is going to be at 0 for x, so do 1 or 2 on the side of 0. So we could try negative 2. If you plug in negative 2, you get negative 2 squared is 4, minus 1 is 3. If you try negative 1, you get negative 1 squared is 1, minus 1 is 0. And because this is a parabola, it's going to reflect and be the same on the opposite side. So if we plug in 1, you should get 0, which we do. 1 squared minus 1 is 0. If you plug in 2, you should get 3. 2 squared is 4, minus 1 is 3. And that gives us the exact points that we need to graph our parabola. Now, looking at the inverse, y equals plus or minus the square root of x plus 1, that is going to be the reflection of this blue parabola over this red line of y equals x. If it seems difficult to reflect a figure that's more than 1 point at a time, you can just look at 1 point at a time and draw your new points for your inverse. If that's still a little too confusing, you can also just make a table like we did over here and reverse it. So instead of plotting negative 2, 3, for the inverse, we're going to plot 3, negative 2, and so on. So sometimes making a table is very helpful in these situations. The first point we're going to plot for the inverse is 3, negative 2. So you go to the right 3, down 2. Then we're going to plot 0, negative 1. So at 0, you go down to 1. Negative 1, 0. Go to the left 1. 0, 1. Go up 1. And then 3, 2. So go to the right 3, up 2. That will give you the inverse of y equals x squared minus 1. The graph is on the following slide with some extra explanation. However, the book just expects that you're going to know how to graph x squared minus 1 and then how to reflect it over the line y equals x. Again, if that's too difficult for you, make a table. Now I would like you to try number 5, graph each relation and its inverse. So we have y equals 3 minus 7x.